What common misconception do you hate to hear repeated as fact? Story 1. Astronomers here. One of my biggest pet peeves around here is how often I see people repeat that a gamma ray burst or GRB could very conceivably unalive us all. The argument goes like this. GRBs are caused by a very massive star going supernova. When gamma rays shoot out of the poles of the dying star, and a GRB is just about the most energetic thing we know of in the universe. If one of these beams hit you, it's sayonara because it would destroy the atmosphere. I have literally had people contact me saying they get serious anxiety from having a GRB hit us unexpectedly, because awful science documentaries really like to go into detail about this scenario of death from above without context. See, while this is all technically true, it still ignores some major factors about GRBs. First of all, they are super rare. Like our own Milky Way only has one every million years or so. Second, you have to be pretty astronomically close to one for it to really affect us. About 8,000 light years if memory serves. And stars about to go supernova are also super bright, so fairly easy to spot at this distance. Third, even if we don't know about the star and it's about to go supernova, only a tiny fraction of supernovae have a GRB associated with it. Third, even if this supernova has a GRB, they are highly directional, just a few degrees tops, so it could be pretty close to us and not have it affect us at all. For example, Carinac is the star most likely to go supernova astronomically soon, and astronomers think it may well be capable of producing a GRB, but its axis isn't pointed towards Earth at all, so it's not a concern. I mean, is there a chance that all these factors could still happen and we'd be exceptionally unlucky? Sure, I guess. But we're frankly much more likely to perish via a giant meteor going to hit us than all of these astronomically low odds coming together. And climate change is actually affecting our planet now. So if you want a scientific apocalypse to worry about, put your energy into that one. Isn't it amazing how we can put all our anxiety into something that has a very low chance of happening? And at the same time, we tend to ignore something that's actually happening at the very moment? It's amazing to think of how so many people can agree on everything about GRBs, but not about climate change. Collectively, we're not that very good at responding to actual global events, are we? Story 2. When people stigmatize mental illness by saying, most crimes are committed by people with a personality disorder, which is actually not true if you go by statistics. People with personality disorders and other mental illnesses are actually more likely to be the victims of crime. People just want to villainize mental illness whenever they deal with someone that is either abusive or they just plain don't get along because it gives them a way to otherize them. I'm looking at you, BPD loved ones. Read a book. Okay, so I typically only see personality disorders brought up by people trying to argue against the idea that mental illness makes you violent. They're thinking of antisocial personality disorder, which does in fact tend to result in criminal activity as the individual doesn't give a damn about right and wrong. Little more nuanced than that, but this is simplified so I can make the following points. 1. This throws all the other personality disorders under the bus, plus all the other mental illnesses, as despite the intended point of separating mental illness from personality disorders, the average person just hears mental disorders. 2. There are very few people with antisocial personality disorder. How the hell are the billions of violent crimes committed every day caused by a few hundred people? As humans, we have problems. We want answers. The answers are amazingly complex. We want to be able to focus on the right way to address them, so we tend to simplify our response. Unfortunately, that means simplifying the cause of the problem. We think if we solve that one part of the problem that we've decided to focus on, that's the answer to everything. Usually that's not the case. Story 3. That English is the hardest language to learn. Anyone who says this, I guarantee, doesn't know two bits about languages, and I probably only speak English. I often hear people say stuff like, oh, but what about there, and there? Literally every single language on the planet has homophones. Hate to break it to you. English grammar is quite analytic. There are very few verb forms to memorize, very few conjugations, few irregular verbs, quite consistent sentence order, etc. B. English for a French or Swedish person would be quite simple. They're related in similar languages. English for a Japanese person is very difficult. Plurals, conjugation for person, different word order, complex syllables. But for a Korean person, Japanese is probably easier than English. The difficulty of a language is all related to the learner's native language, their interest in the language, and the resources they have for learning that language. Signed, an angry linguistic major. I've always thought it was Mandarin or Cantonese that was the hardest language to learn. Just the fact that there are different tones, and changing the tone on one syllable changes the word completely is really mind-boggling. English uses tone as a way to convey meaning, not the word itself. My favorite saying about English, though, is this: English does not borrow from other languages. English follows other languages down dark alleyways, knocks them unconscious, and goes through their pockets for loose grammar. Story 4. Every year when Time announces their Person of the Year, you get half of people shouting, "Time is hogwash. This person sucks. They don't deserve an award." And the other half shouting, "Ha ha! Our person won Person of the Year, so they're objectively the best person in the world this year." For example, see Trump in 2016 or Greta this year. Usually the people who don't like that person will bring up that Time gave the Person of the Year to Hitler, so obviously they have no idea who is good or bad, or they only pick bad people. So to clear things up, Time Person of the Year goes to the most newsworthy Person of the Year, not the best Person of the Year. Occasionally, though, the public pressure on Time magazine is so intense that they cave in and nominate someone who appears good rather than a more suitable villain. For instance, in 2001, Osama bin Laden was arguably the world's most newsworthy person that year. The 9/11 attacks were the news story of the year. Person of the Year. So it put Rudy Giuliani there instead. Story 5. Vaccines cause autism. Also, a young kid can't have autism if they're verbal. The freaking school psychologist spent so long trying to convince me that my medically diagnosed kid couldn't possibly have autism because he was speaking in simple sentences. Also, I met many medical professionals who are amazed that he can answer any of their yes or no questions and tell them his name. Autism is a spectrum disorder, which means that people with autism can be either very outgoing, completely nonverbal, or anywhere in between. I guess they were so used to kids with severe or low-functioning forms of autism that they're unaware that there are high-functioning forms out there. But I didn't know that some doctors actually came to think this. Story 6. Fish don't just grow to the size of their tank. Keeping fish in too small of a tank stunts its growth and shortens its life by slowly poisoning it in a soup of its own waste that gets increasingly toxic as time goes by. The fish suffer and slowly die if their tank is too small. Always follow tank size guidelines for the fish you want and avoid overstocking your tank. Also, betas do not live in puddles and cannot thrive in vases or without a heater short of you being in a tropical hot-as-hell environment. Filters are required. Seriously saying, "I have a fish live for years in a bowl," isn't true. I can shove you in a closet, feed you and clean your waste, maybe, and you'd live. You'd not thrive. There's a very big difference there, I'll admit. It's a very graphic analogy to put forward, too. Hopefully this poster has not had any experience doing that. But who knows? Maybe someone ought to check to see if people have gone missing around him lately. Story 7. It's illegal to film me without my permission. In most cases, you don't need someone's permission to film in a public place where there's no expectation of privacy. If it were a public bathroom, then yeah, that might be a problem. But filming at a park or on the sidewalk is not illegal. There's this great video from Wonder Shows and kind of related to this that cracks me up so much. Yes, but it's also infuriating when some jerkwad in a store is harassing employees and hanging on this "I can film in public" hogwash. Walmart, Starbucks, or inside or on the property of just about any business is not public. And they absolutely can disallow you from filming. Story 8. People who have OCD must be so organized. Or alternatively, people claiming to have OCD because they're organized. Like, no. Just no. I have OCD and it's miserable to actually live with. There are many varieties of OCD. Not everyone is organized. And it doesn't make life easy. I will focus on one small thing and get completely behind on all other tasks due to my OCD. While meds and therapy have helped me slow my brain and learn how to disengage, or just not engage in the first place, it's totally miserable, and I would do a lot of things to not have it. Story 9. You're too young to be disabled or in pain, sick, etc. Sadly, mostly from doctors. No, there is no too young for any of those things. If you exist as a human being at any age, from the moment of birth onward, you are able to be in pain or disabled or sick. My mother had JRA starting from age 7. Kids get sick. Kids can have chronic pain. Kids can be disabled. You're only hurting people when you scoff and make this claim. You're the reason my sister ended up with a dope addiction. Recovered, thank God. You butt-shapose. Thank you. As a teen with chronic pain, I really appreciate this comment. Maybe some people say this as a generalization. Maybe some people say this because they can't believe someone so young has to go through something so terrible. I think this person is concerned about the people that just refuse to believe that someone can't be in pain like this. Me personally, I've been wearing glasses since I was 6 or 7. It's not something that's disabled or in pain per se, but I can attest that this happens. Story 10. Cracking your knuckles will give you arthritis or joint pain or whatever. There are several studies that confirm arthritis is absolutely not a possibility from cracking your knuckles, and there seems to be no short-term effects of cracking your knuckles. So good, crack away, right? No. Those same studies show that people who have been cracking their knuckles for a long time, compared to those who have been cracking for a short time, have much weaker grip strength. So I guess crack away if you don't mind being incapable of opening jars of pickles in the future. Story 11. I hate hearing, lions are the king of the jungle. Lions don't freaking live in the Godzilla jungles. I know most people don't think that, but every once in a while you hear someone either say that or somehow mention how lions love jungles. I also hate when people say, blood is actually blue and that's why your veins are blue. You'll notice in The Lion King, Simba is actually from the desert, and then simply became a refugee in the jungle. Story 12. Caligula elected a horse to the consulship. He basically said that his horse would do a better job than the senators' consuls of the time. This is infuriating as he did a lot of crazier stuff, i.e. declare a war on Neptune and had a legion wade into water and stab the ocean. I thought that was because he wanted to conquer Britain, but the troops wouldn't mount the boats. Or there weren't any boats, or both versions, so he told them to ridicule them to attack the sea. Later, they returned to Rome triumphantly with wagons full of seashells. Caligula has this image in popular media of being the ultimate person with power, but very, very mad. Like mentally challenged mad. He's done a lot more things than just elect a horse to the consulship. He's done a lot of things that harm actual human beings. Story 13. That pregnant women need to eat for 2. No. A healthy weight woman needs an extra 300 calories second trimester and onward. Overweight women need no extra calories. Underweight women need more. All need vitamins and nutrients, but no one needs to double their calorie intake. People do say this to me, but I don't think any of them actually believe I need twice my usual caloric intake. It's usually said jokingly as an excuse to eat more dessert or an extra snack or something, kind of like, treat yourself. Story 14. The old lady who sued McDonald's for burns was just a money-hungry person who purposely drank a cup of hot coffee to hurt herself so she could take them to court. She spilled her coffee in her lap, and the old cups and lids were bad. She had major burns. The only reason she took the case to court is because McDonald's refused to pay her medical costs. It was the jury who rewarded her the large sum, because major burns is an understatement. Story 15. That chickens can't fly. I've been to a farm. I've seen real chickens. The lady taking care of them addressed that misconception and said that chickens can fly. There were rafters on the roof of the chicken coop for the chickens to sit on. I literally saw a chicken fly up to one. They don't fly super high or for long periods of time, if I'm remembering correctly, but they can still fly. It's more like a rocket jump than proper flying. My family used to have chickens growing up. This is true. Chickens don't migrate or anything that requires that long a distance, but they do fly. If they could fly that far, how in the world would we be able to keep them in coops so we could get their eggs? Story 16. That wolves have alphas in their packs. The man who made this discovery has spent most of his career trying to correct this because he found out what he observed was a family. The alpha is typically the mother of the wolves in the pack and not the most dominant wolf. Edit. The man who popularized the idea was L. David Meck and has since renounced his findings on the pack alpha. Caesar Milan and his dumfoolery did not help this myth to go away. Story 17. 420. 420 did not originate from the Los Angeles Police or Penal Code for marijuana use. In California, Police Code 420 means juvenile disturbance, and California Penal Code Section 420 prohibits the obstruction of access to public land. The use of 420 started in 1971 at San Rafael High School, where it indicated the time, 4:20 p.m., where a group of students would go to smoke. I love fellow educated stoners. Story 18. America can't afford to take care of the homeless. It's actually cheaper to do the right thing and feed, house, and medically take care of everyone. The way America either ignores its homeless or criminalizes them costs way more money. We choose to let people suffer. Have you ever been to LA? There's a place in downtown LA called Skid Row. It's blocks and blocks of tents and people and garbage and people trying to do the right thing in their buildings and house these people. Driving through that area is very heartbreaking. In the middle of this great big city, there are people suffering and starving and freezing. I wish more people knew it was possible to take care of people. Story 19. Muscle turns to fat if you stop working out. No, it doesn't. If you stop working out, your muscles atrophy. The atrophy in your muscles causes them to burn less calories. Burning less calories and gaining more fat. Since we're in a thread where we're righting wrongs, I feel like I'm allowed to say that it's fewer calories, not less. Story 20. If you drop a penny off the Empire State Building, it will unalive someone or crack the sidewalk. Because people think things keep accelerating, so they think a penny will reach the speed of a bullet, but that's not the case. Terminal velocity is the top speed an object can reach, and it has a limit. It's also the reason that dropping an ant to the ground from high up won't unalive it. Story 21. Einstein failed math. Nope, he didn't. He was top of the class. Edit. Here's a source that clarifies the misconception. This misconception comes from the different grading schemes between countries. Where Einstein took his, he got a grade that was amazing for the test he took. But the same score in Germany was near bottom. It's like getting a 36 on the ACT and then saying you failed the SAT. So really it was just a matter of mistranslation? I can see how that would be. I think people use the idea of Einstein failing at math to inspire people who want to succeed in something but aren't doing as well as they should. Well-meaning, but wrong. It sounds like it's just a matter of perspective. Story 22. I absolutely hate when people try to get into arguments with me about whether harvestmen, daddy longlegs, are venomous. They aren't. And it always goes down the same. They get irate, tell me I'm wrong, they pull out their phone to prove me wrong, they get proven wrong instead. How often does this come up? Story 23. I don't want a salary raise because this will put me in a higher tax bracket and I'm going to lose money. It doesn't work that way. That's correct. However, the welfare cliff is a real thing, and people can lose more benefits than they gain wealth at certain income levels if they accept a raise. Story 24. 6 million people were unalive during the Holocaust. It was actually 11 million. 6 million is just the number of Jews. I think people know this, but I often see the 6 million figure being thrown around a lot, ignoring the other 5 million unalived men, women, and children. I absolutely hate this. It ticks me off that many people are just forgotten. That is tragic, but it's also interesting. What other people were unalive during the Holocaust that weren't Jews? I know there was persecution against homosexuals, but what other people were so much of a threat to the German regime that they had to get rid of them? Story 25. Love your parents. They're the only ones you have. Thanks, but no thanks. I would rather choose my family than be 1 second around my abusive parents that have continuously threatened to unalive me just because they can. They don't like it that I want to live my own life and stop being their slave and do everything for them. Story 26. That LSD makes you jump out of windows because you think you can fly. I know so many people who are scared to do psychedelics because Dare lied to them about their effects. Dare also led me to believe I would be offered free pharmaceuticals a lot. And that just hasn't been the case. Story 27. Diamonds are not that rare. Their popularity and prices are inflated by clever marketing. Diamond mining syndicates fooled us. They're not rare at all, and increasingly synthesized to boot. Industrial diamonds are more than 98% synthetic. I've heard about this before. I keep hearing sometimes about companies that are going into the business of manufacturing diamonds. The question is, are the synthesized diamonds cheaper than mined diamonds? And if they are, why would they be that expensive? Story 28. I remember reading somewhere a policeman saying if you think someone is missing, report it straight away in 48 hours. They could be unalive, something along those lines. You don't have to wait to report a missing person. There is no 24-hour or 48-hour requirement. Story 29. That women far along in their pregnancies are willy-nilly getting late-term abortions for fun. When people terminate late in their pregnancy, it's nearly always because there's a severe abnormality in the fetus of what was otherwise a very much wanted pregnancy. Story 30. If a girl has spicy time with multiple partners, her vagina will be loose. This is so much. It's the same as saying that if a boy has spicy time with multiple partners, his pen will shrink due to wear. Ooh, that one's going to cause a conversation or two. Do you think maybe some guys just made this up because they didn't want to have a partner with a high body count? Wasn't it not that long ago that more males were gynecologists than before? You'd think the more that men would study women's anatomy and such, they'd be more knowledgeable about the truth about these things. Story 31. Mr. Rogers was a sniper in Vietnam. This one bothers me too. I also hate he also wore the sweaters to cover up his tattoos. There's plenty of times you see him in short sleeves. Story 32. That kids can't have depression. Hear it all the time. Even online repeats it. Every 14-year-old girl, I don't know why it's so specific, are all faking depression for attention and nothing more. Story 33. That shaving will make your beard grow back thicker. Seriously. Been shaving my 3 hairs for years. I don't think it grows thicker because you shave it. I think it grows thicker because you're getting older and your body is changing. It doesn't really make sense either. When you shave, you're just cutting off the top part of the hair. You're not interfering with the growth of the hair at all. Story 34. Blue blood ain't blue, so don't believe your 12th grade science teacher, mister. Unless you're a horseshoe crab. Story 35. That you catch a cold from being cold. A good chill can compromise your immune system, though. Story 36. Impeachment, removal from office. I wish I could get impeached. I'm really bored at my office right now. Story 37. People swallow 7 spiders every year in their sleep. No, they don't. Story 38. You only use 10% of your brain. I mean, this may be true for some people. Story 39. You have the flu? You need antibiotics ASAP. So you met my wife then, eh? Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.